most of us were doing it without a lot of money. That is, we didn't put up wind turbines or solar cells. We were just trying to figure out how to get 90% of our electricity use down. And we didn't succeed all the way. I'm at 80% in all of my categories, but still struggling with gasoline and things like that. But what's remarkable was that people did it in cities. People did it with small kids. Disabled people did it. People with, no money did it. People with lots of money did it. People with all sorts of family challenges and social things. People who started, I know a woman who's from Tennessee who said, my electric usage is 4 times the national average. And she got down to 10% of the American average over the course of, So what was really remarkable to me was that it's not easy. It's challenging. It's going to be different answers for every person and every household and family. But it is a doable proposition for us to live a life, and it's fun. I mean, that's the really amazing thing about this, is that when you start thinking about how can I get the most out of the least, that's making art out of your life. I mean, that's the coolest thing you could possibly imagine, is how it's not challenging to have fun with the 500 gallons of oil that every man, woman, and child in the United States burns every year. It's really interesting to try and have as much fun with 50 gallons every year. And I actually think that my feeling is that right now that we're having more fun than most people. But that's one of those things that could vary. I'm winding up. Last 2 minutes. One, that you can buy your way out of this problem. There's a lot of people who want to sell that idea to you, that you just got to buy the hybrid, the really cool way of handling this. There are tools that you're going to buy, there are things we're going to do, but we've got to slow the economy down and come to some kind of stabilized model where we don't have to grow, get bigger every year, use more every year in order to get along. And finally, the last one is that we have a choice. A lot of us think of these things as simply lifestyle choices. It's simply, I'm an environmentalist, this is part of my cool identity, the whole New York Times, green is the new black thing, Well, it's a little more complicated than that. We don't have a lot of, I think it's great that this stuff be cool, but I think one of the things we need to keep in mind, and it's not the sort of thing that should take you home and pull up the covers over your head week for week, but there's this sense of that this is not something that we're doing just because it's cool. It's something we're doing because there's something more than cool out there. There's this sense of us being people with courage. I actually, I was on a panel with Jim Kunstler, who some of you may know. He wrote this book called The Long Emergency about the combination of the financial crisis and the energy crisis and the ecological crisis and what was going to happen to us. It was really terrible. And I sort of was with him, and he and I have gone back and forth. He's kind of a guy's guy, and I'm this sort of odd figure because I'm female writing about energy issues, and it's not a little thing. And I said, well, we're really going to need balls. And I think that may be the last thing that I can say, is that it's necessary, it's kind of fun, and one of the great things about Americans and about our culture is that for 50% of us, these are metaphorical, but you gotta admit, we really got balls.
Now, Darren, do you want to follow that? Because you have them, but I don't know. I'm not saying that. No self-conscious. Okay, sorry, Jennifer. And I wrote about, in one of my newsletters, about blue balls. I said, you just got to get some big blue balls, and those were for the dryer, instead of using dryer sheets. So it's a very topical conversation. I want to talk about Darren for a minute. He has been on my radio show. And when he was on there, I kind of gushed, and I said, what you did started here, and he started an organization. Is anybody in the room not familiar with Recycle? Don't be ashamed. I mean, you can raise your hand or not. But I have a friend who totally redid several rooms in her house. And she broke down the tile, the ceramics, she took out all the old plumbing, she took out all the old walls, and she put everything out in front of her yard. She put it on freecycle.org, and every single bit of it, people came and used. So freecycle.org is a free recycling organization. When I interviewed Darren, it blew my mind because I love to run the numbers. We did this whole sustainable thing accidentally on purpose because of setting the tone and where it goes, because this person started a movement, and I love numbers. He has, through his network, and wonderful people throughout the world. He does not take all the credit. He is an unbelievable human being. They have 4,694 groups around the world, made up of 6,472,000 members. They are self-policed. It's entirely nonprofit. They use volunteers. I mean, just, they were on my show and I'm saying, okay, this is not a TV show. We need kind of a diagram and an org chart. And he personifies the think globally, act locally mindset, because I might not be able to make a difference in.
Was started with one email right here in Tucson, and the Tucsonans made it happen. So right on. How many of you have heard of FreeCycle before today? Yeah. Well, a big thank you to you guys for making it happen, because of that, over 24,000 items a day are being given away and received for free on freecycle.org in over 85 countries. That's pretty awesome. And so I'm just touched whenever I get up and say thank you to everyone for making that happen, because it's 10,000 volunteers who are volunteering in their own communities to make the FreeCycle groups happen. Basically, the way it works is you go to freecycle.org, you find your local gifting group, and you post an item, say an old sofa. You'll get 5 or 6 responses. You pick whichever one sounds funnest or most interesting, or maybe it's a nonprofit group responding, and you tell them to come by at 6 p.m. and pick up the item. So the concept is to make it easier to give something away than to throw it away. You don't have to carry it somewhere. You don't have to pay to throw it in a landfill. None of that. So it really has worked out well. It's just snowballing. We've got the double whammy right now, the economy going south and people becoming more environmentally aware. So we're currently adding between 40,000 and 75,000 new members a week. So it's amazing. So there's just really something beautiful happening right now. People are making a direct difference in their own communities. It's globally local, so you don't mail things somewhere. It's like a free Craigslist, if you will. So as a result, I said 24,000 items. That's about 700 tons a day. And if you were to stack that in garbage trucks, the number of stuff given away, the amount of stuff given away in the past year alone, 7 times the height of Mount Everest. So you can have, and that's the one message I want to get across today, is you can have a major impact on the environment through reuse. And even more so than through recycling and eliminating all your other waste. Reuse is the big bang for your buck. And I'll be getting into a little bit more detail on that as we go forward here. I'm going to start by quoting somebody who's smarter than me, George Soros. He also happens to have a very cute Hungarian accent. But he said, on CNN about 2 weeks ago, I was listening, I thought, who is this guy? We must act or we will big together. And I thought, well, okay, this guy's got a lot of money, he knows what he's doing. And he's representing the business world as a huge financier kind of guy. And I thought, okay, if someone like him is starting to rethink things, that means that we're not necessarily fighting against business. It's, everyone needs the same sort of stable environment with predictable outcomes. And having a stable economy, a stable environment will make that possible. So right after I'd done that, coincidentally, I was signed up for a workshop in Tucson. It was King Arthur's Flour had a free make your own bread, learn how to make bread workshop. And I went to that, and I had a little epiphany in that workshop. Because I was trying to be a little more sustainable, bake yourself. And I thought, well, George Soros has it almost right. But if you're living in a desert community, I thought, wow, I'm living a metaphor here. We are baking and we're acting anyway. So I thought, well, if you live in a desert community, you've got to be willing to bake a little bit, but also try to make a change.